So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about cultural investing and why it's an arbitrage opportunity. Basically, the gist is venture capital as an industry is missing the boat because they're not focusing on culture. Why is this important? Why culture? Culture is the only intangible thing in our world that has the ability to move us in many different ways. You think about movies, music, theater, the ability to make you cry, laugh, feel joy, sadness. That's culture. It defines the norm. Kanye West, Ben Horowitz, who's influencing who here, right? It transforms industries. Think about the shared economy, ride sharing. This is all based on culture. I'll talk to you a little bit later about Uber and how culture has a significant impact in their success. And it changes the way we live our lives. So what does all this mean? Sum it up. Pop culture drives brands, and brands define the experiences that make up our lives. So if you believe that, and you also believe that authenticity is important for brands to be successful, then it also makes sense that as investors, we look for entrepreneurs that can authentically resonate or authentically mesh with the companies that they're creating. And that's what cultural investing is. Now, we all know that diverse communities are early adopters of technology, early adopters of consumer products. We also spend a lot more on these things than some of the other ethnicities. But what does this mean? This tells us that our communities are significant influencers of pop culture. So in other words, investors need to start looking at diverse communities, diverse founders, in order to find the next big brands of tomorrow. And guess what? This is not going to change anytime soon. It's only going to get better, right? Laura's going to come out here a little bit and talk about Code 2040 and the principle of becoming majority minority by 2040. But it's happening right now. K through 12 is already majority minority. You know, by 2027, 18 to 29-year-olds are going to be majority minority. And those are the ones that are spending the money. Those are the ones that are defining pop culture. So guess what, VC? We better start looking at these folks, and we better start investing in their companies. So a lot of folks like to say that, you know, VC is broken. I don't agree. I don't think it's broken, but I think it's incomplete, right? So if you look at this slide here, the far left column is status quo today. And it talks about where the deals are found, right? It's in affluent networks. It's alumni of Fortune 500 companies. It's alumni of Silicon Valley startup darlings. And that's great. You'll find some winners there. But guess what? You'll only find the best entrepreneur of that group. If you really want outsized returns, what you got to be looking at is the overall best entrepreneur. And you've got to be looking to identify new markets. And the only way that you can do that is to step out of the box. You got to go to HBCUs, right? You got to, thank you. You have to find founders that are tackling problems that everyone else is not tackling today, because that's the only way to unlock the potential. Find those best founders, create new markets, help them to build solutions for those new markets, and realize those outsized returns. That's how you complete venture capital. So at Crosscultural Ventures, we started doing this already. Here are 4 of our early investments, right? Thrive Market was actually our second investment. And this is an online platform that allows consumers to buy the same goods that you would see at a Whole Foods, but they do it at 30 to 40% discount. So who does this help? This helps lower income families. This helps diverse communities to eat better, which is actually a super important cultural trend that we're seeing in these communities. Maven here is a mobile platform that helps hairstylists to share in the upside of the products that they're used to installing. So now for the first time, hairstylists are making $20K a month just on selling hair products. We've seen hairstylists basically stop doing hair and just start selling hair. And that improves the quality of life for their families. AfroStream, this company is based in France. It's a streaming video company that's capitalizing on African American and African content, right? They're basically dubbing this content in French and making it available to French-speaking folks in Europe and in Africa. This is super important because if you look at a Netflix, for instance, and you go to those communities or those regions of the world, you can't get this type of content in your native tongue, so you can't enjoy it. And what that means is that the producers and the actors that are participating in these types of films, they don't get as big a pie as they could. AfroStream is changing that. Lend Street, debt resettlement platform, a deal we did with one of our investors, Mitch and Frida Kapoor at Kapoor Capital. And basically what this company does is it looks at what's been successful in debt resettlement for companies, and it brings it to consumers, right? It teaches us about how to better manage our finances, how to make the most out of our money, and how to get out of debt. Super important for our communities. So we started going down this path, but I want to talk to you about some companies that have been doing this for some time now, right? Uber. Who would think that Uber's success is based on cultural trends? Well, let's talk about it. Think about millennials, right? Graduating from college. College has gotten a lot more expensive. They've got to pay for this. So they go for these high-paying jobs, and those high-paying jobs are usually in metropolitans, right? There are more and more of them coming. And they still have the student debt, so they don't have a lot of money, can't buy cars, and it's congested, so they can't afford to own cars. So ride sharing comes into play here. Raise your hand if you've ever been a black guy at midnight in New York City trying to get to Brooklyn or Harlem. With Uber, you fix that problem. They probably didn't even know they were going after that problem, but there you go. And I'll give you one more example, Spotify. We all know Spotify, right? Black people, Hispanic Americans, we over-index on music, right? We are the primary consumer of music. We don't necessarily like to buy it all the time, though, right? So what do? They found us a way where we can continue to consume the music in the ways that we like, but ease the burden of having to buy every single record that you want. Super successful company at this point. So to wrap up, pop culture drives brands. Brands define the world that we live in. The companies that are authentic will succeed as brands and will be the largest brands and companies of tomorrow. So we have to focus on those companies. Thank you.